video, and what I was saying in that other one. It just came back to my heart, like how he had said that in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that he doesn't exist. He was referring to something else that doesn't exist. I can't remember what it was. If he was saying like this, I think it was the sword. It was like that. There's a deep, excellently crafted sword that is coveted in this video, in that film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And it takes a master to appreciate that sword and actually manipulate that sword to its potential. The sword being mastered by the master, and the master also being mastered by the sword. But had you attained mastery in that, you would have had to come through a lot of bloodshed, and then you would actually be pained and you would be disheartened and disgusted with the sword if you actually knew what that sword was about to the point of mastering it. And that's the dilemma of Mubai in that film. And there's a yet promising disciple who is who's fetishized and coveted the sword, not understanding the deeper properties of the training that is necessary, nor the blood that would be invoked and implied by handling that sword. And their actual flirting with and trifling with that sword yet called forth more bloodshed to go forth to confirm the history and the daunting history and lineage of pain and bloodshed that attends swords of all kind. I could maybe do an analogy between that sword being just the same as all these other blunt instruments that have been with us, these guns that have been slaying people since hundreds of years ago to the present day, no less. There's probably someone who was slain by a sword, by a weapon of some kind, no less than a firearm. And some of these firearms, as much as we think they're sexy or cool or safe or auspicious or valuable, they have a deep history of blood that they cannot be removed from. And so long as we have these deadly weapons with us, we will have bloodshed with us, because the weapon, the thoughts and the ideas and the passion that goes into forging, and also the ingenuity that goes into fashioning these weapons, is a function of the type of cause and effect that cannot be isolated from the weapon, and that the weapon also invokes and furthers on. So the weapon is a function of history and is yet an agent of history, and it's like what came first, the weapon or the bloodshed, and it's not going to stop until we evolve. If heaven helps us. And some of the closest to that would be films like this, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and what that film is actually about, if you can appreciate it. And if you hadn't said something hundreds of times, if you hadn't done something hundreds of times, if you hadn't read something hundreds of times, if you hadn't cried something hundreds of times, you don't know what you're talking about yet, and neither do I. But I engaged with that movie a lot. And one thing Mubai said, it might be the deepest. I knew that movie. I saw that movie as a teenager, and that movie blew me out of my socks when I saw that. And I was about trying to sneak into that movie, not being able to afford it as a child, because I needed to see it again. Back in the days, I wanted to jump higher because I was into sports. So the way that they were flying so gracefully like that and somewhat transcending gravity is the deeper thing that I was interested in as a child. But what I think is deeper than that is transcending our identity. That's what the real flying is. The flying is transcending our skill, our heritage, our lineage, our love, our fear, our greed, our identity, our accomplishment, our potential, our craft, our sneakiness, our stealth, all that. Getting past all that, and now you're flying. Now you're cool. That's what that film is about. I think deeper. That film is actually about freedom. It took hell of violence. It took hell of love. It took hell of pain. It took hell of beauty. It took hell of cunning. Actually, to have an approach of discussing freedom and getting past the bloodshed of these deadly, beautiful implements of death and terror that are about us. And the way that Mubai said that, and what I wanted to say with this video, is that I think what he said he is nothing, and he said the sword is nothing. And as I understood him saying that in Mandarin, having watched it many times in Mandarin, not understanding it, while I was a lonely clerk, only getting phone calls from a distant friend from childhood, seldom, but regular and lovingly, is that he said, "Limu bai shushumi, hai shushumi." And if you can understand what I just said out of my mouth right there, you can get the value of this channel, and maybe that film, and maybe popular media, and maybe a lot of popular literature and nonfiction. If you can appreciate what I just said out of my mouth right there, that might be the answer to a lot of the things that are painful about us in media and in culture that we're dealing with, and no less than our identity and our sense of ourself and others. If you can appreciate what I said out of my mouth like that, it can speak a lot to what is redeeming and beautiful in this life and beyond. Peace.